There are tons of new cruise ships coming in the near future, which makes this an incredibly exciting time to be a cruising fan. Royal Caribbean has the Icon of the Seas and the Utopia of the Seas. Norwegian has the Norwegian Viva, Disney Cruise Line the Disney Treasure, Princess the Sun Princess, and so on and so on. However, with all the coverage that these ships get, I see absolutely no one talking about Cunard's Queen Anne. But first, before I start this video, if you are not subscribed, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel out. Onto the video. For those who don't know, Cunard is part of Carnival Group and is a traditional cruise line that harkens back to the old days of ocean liners. Cunard is a premium / luxury experience that combines some of the activities cruising became known for. Think like Titanic days, minus all the icebergs and sinking. There's exceptional afternoon tea, formal nights with black tux, ballroom dancing, and live music everywhere. However, the really exciting thing about the new Queen Anne is that it seems to be a ship both designed for Cunard loyalists and for a new generation of would-be potential Cunard sailors. Cunard currently has 3 other ships in its fleet: the Queen Mary II, the Queen Elizabeth, and the Queen Victoria. And while there are some differences among these ships, especially regarding their age, they all share a relatively similar design philosophy. Queen Anne, however, represents a step towards a modern elegance, and specifically a type of modern elegance that really isn't shared by any other player in the cruise industry. Whereas lines like Celebrity offer modern luxury that's grounded in minimalism and almost a Scandinavian aesthetic, Cunard is doubling down on that Victorian regal feel, but updated enough to still have crossover appeal, especially with a younger crowd. For example, look at the aft pool on board the Queen Anne, something that looks quite luxurious and still in line with that iconic Cunard design philosophy, but updated enough that it still appeals to someone like me who's into the modern resort look. In addition to the aft pool, the pavilion, a very contemporary multi-purpose space, combines a main pool with a large LED screen and stage that can do things like live theater, live music performances, and of course, movies. Perhaps the most significant outdoor space that really calls attention to the new direction Cunard is moving with the Queen Anne is the Pavilion Wellness Studio, a gorgeous, bespoke outdoor space that really puts emphasis on things like fitness. Whether it's yoga, Pilates, or some sort of other instructional fitness class, this space really seems to speak to the wellness crowd that isn't necessarily in that core current Cunard demographic, and that's mostly elderly people. This dips into a pool of customers that are looking for a more active and healthy vacation, and certainly those types that are more likely to take things like a wellness retreat. I'm thinking like Canyon Ranch crowd. Cunard's emphasis on luxury and pampering also kind of does cross over with this same section of people, so this seems to be a really smart move. And also a really beautiful space. Stateroom design on board the Queen Anne is very contemporary, but still grounded in that Victorian luxury style, and I really like what they've done with this. It really reminds me of something like the Ritz-Carlton or the Waldorf Astoria, but of course, at sea. Dining is of course very plush and fancy, and also depends on what kind of stateroom you're staying in. But one thing interesting about the Queen Anne is that Cunard is introducing alternative dining. And really, this adds some more variety and exotic cuisine types that you might not have seen on other Cunard ships. Think Mediterranean or Pan-Asian cuisine. This really appeals to the foodie crowd that isn't necessarily looking for the same stuffy, cruising classics that you might think of when you think of the main dining room, and it kind of extends that Cunard reach to a whole new generation of people. As a whole, Queen Anne seems to be celebrating great food, great drinks, great company, and great venues in a typical Cunard way, but with a real emphasis on updating the experience for a new generation. As someone who's always been Cunard curious, the Queen Anne really might be that final push to get me to get on board a sailing and really see what the experience is like. If you're someone who really likes traditional sailing or the classic ocean liner look that you find on some vessels, the Queen Anne might be the perfect mix between modern ship appointments and traditional ocean sailing. What do you think of the Queen Anne? Please let me know in the comments below if you'd consider sailing on this vessel, and I hope to see you in our next video.